A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend, Constitutionalist Joseph M. Leonard.
Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's L-E-N-A-R-D. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and an occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Welcome to another Constitutionalist Politics Podcast show. Thank you all for tuning in. Joining me today is Shirley Buck, and you all know I can never pass on the lame pun. And I already joked with her once on her name, right? Shirley, you jest. And of course, the airplane movie, Don't Call Me Shirley, right?
That's right.
And then Buck, Shirley Buck. I think, was it Truman that had the sign, "The buck stops here"? Well,
Yeah.
At
How could you forget my name?
Right. At CTP, the Shirley Buck stops here.
Yes, absolutely.
Welcome to the show, Shirley.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
First, let's start with the down and dirty nitty gritty for us older folks. The that's 5. 411. For those seeing on behind the scenes, I have now a whole hand. The 411, for those who remember when you used to be able to pick up a phone and hit 411 to get operator assistance. Yeah, I don't think that exists anymore. You're supposed to look it up on the internet now.
That's right.
But where were you born and raised, and where are you now, and all that stuff. And also, before that, people could see on the behind the scenes, I'm wearing my Savage Unfiltered Shockcaster shirt. Well, rest assured, no shocking going on here today. I'm calm, cool, collected, no swearing on this show. We get a little animated over there. But so now, with that all out of the way, at any rate, born and raised and all that stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm Shirley Buck. I was born and raised in Chicago.
Well, no, you're done. We're through with you. I said no swearing, but plug the kids' ears. The Chicago Bulls, right?
That's not true. No, Chicago is a beautiful, beautiful state. I mean, a city. Sorry, Illinois.
I got you all flustered now.
Yes, you do. No, Chicago is a beautiful, beautiful city. It's a clean city. It has the lake. It's just gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And, you know, believe it or not, it's a friendly city. I've always felt like it was a friendly city. We have a bad rap for sure, but it is a really nice city.
I've been in and through Chicago many times on the way to like Naperville or Sharonville and stuff like that. So yeah, downtown Chicago is lovely, and obviously certainly much bigger an area than the Detroit downtown, which Detroit downtown is lovely. Unfortunately, large swaths of our city still look like Hiroshima after the bomb hit. They only help build up downtown. They never fix anything in other areas. But I heard today, way off topic, I heard today on the news that they're supposed to be working towards putting in a train line between Detroit, Petoskey, up to Traverse City, which would be wonderful. A nice corridor.
That is wonderful. I go to Manistee like twice a year. So
that's great. Yeah. Create a nice train corridor from Detroit to Traverse, and people visiting up in Traverse can come to Detroit for the day, and people in Detroit can get out of town for a day and not have to do that drive. But indeed, that's way off topic. What my
Go back
notes
to
here?
me.
Yeah, right. I have my notes here. I don't script the show, but I do have. I want to read the little bit about background information that I got about you, which is why you're here.
Okay.
Says about you. I struggled with depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem for most of my life due to years of severe abuse and trauma. And indeed, that's why I wanted you here today about overcoming trauma and mindset healing.
Yes. Okay, so like I said, I was born in Chicago. I had deaf parents, which in itself, caused a challenge, right? Because I was their ears, I was their voice. At a very young age, I was making calls. I interpreted their divorce at 5 years old. So
Oh,
it
horrible.
was but it was normal to me, if that makes sense.
Well, you didn't know any better, yeah.
Right. So, but that wasn't the trauma. After the divorce, when I was around 8 years old, my mother became a alcoholic and an abusive alcoholic. And from the ages of 8 to 13, she was very abusive to me. And when I was 13, she took her life violently and tried to take my life as well, which led me to a series of living with different family members, living on the streets. I had addictions. I drank. I had eating disorders. I was everywhere on the scale from 70 pounds to 200 pounds. I mean,
How tall are
was a
you?
mess. My life was a mess.
Yeah, how tall are you for?
5'2".
Yeah, my ex-wife was 5'4", so yeah, 70 pounds is awfully light. And then the other is above BMI, not obese, but above BMI.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So I went through some very serious struggles, and by the time I was 18, I had gotten a job with the Steelworkers Union, and I was making good money, and I got an apartment, and I got, my life together. And then by the time I was 22, I met my fiance, and at 23, I was getting married, and I was finally in a safe, happy place. And that's when I had my breakdown. I guess when I felt safe, my body said, okay, now you can deal with everything that's happened to you.
In a perverse way, it makes sense.
Right. And through it all, I mean, my grandmother always taught me about God. So even when I was drinking and doing drugs and stuff, I was talking to God. My faith did play a good role in it. And I've never did traditional therapy or meds, mainly probably because I never had access to it. I was a kid that was pretty much a throwaway kid. Everyone thought she'll never amount to anything. She's just been through too much trauma. I mean, there was physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse. There was so much going on in my life, and I just didn't have access to that, and my dad, being deaf, was remarried. I mean, it's all in the book, but
which we'll get to in a second.
Right.
And before
I
go
just don't want to, go too much into everything, but I will say that my faith did pull me through quite a bit. And then when I had the breakdown, it was pretty much I was done living, or I had to pull it together. And I didn't want to go to traditional therapy because that scared the hell out of me. I've seen some, or that's not a swear word, right? Sorry.
That's quite all right.
Yeah.
Hey, we're all human.
Right.
Like I said on Savage Unfiltered, you wouldn't recognize me. There's a whole lot of cussing going on.
Okay.
It's a whole different persona over there.
HE double toothpick. So I didn't want to talk to somebody that most likely didn't experience the things I'd been through. And in my mind, I was like, they just learned something out of a book on how to treat me, and they're not really going to understand, empathize, the word, empathy. They did, and I felt like I've seen other people go through therapy, and it seemed like they were focusing on the problem, focusing on the problem, focusing on the problem, and then they were given meds to calm down, but they're focusing on the problem, but they're, the whys. And I was like, that just seems like a vicious circle to me. I didn't want to go there. And I'm not saying that therapy is wrong for everybody. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, for me, I did not want to do that.
We've talked about that on other shows regarding trauma and stress and that. Yeah.
Right.
What's good for one isn't necessarily another. What will work for one may not work for another. I'm not here to judge
anybody. I'm just telling my story of.
Yeah, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not playing one here, and you're not a doctor. Right. You're not playing one here.
Right.
We're just dealing in our experience.
And I feel like even in the doctor realm, like meds are just pushed too much, and we're the only country that shows commercials of medicine. I mean, ask your doctor about this.
Yeah.
The doctor be telling me what to do, but
Yeah, that's one thing I disagree with Ronald Reagan on. I understand the concept of it, but I agree. And if I had my druthers, we would pass a law to return back to you can't advertise on TV. I joke about it before, like the Big Bang Theory, Penny towards the end becomes a pharma rep. Well, that's the way it's supposed to work. The doctors learn about the drugs, and then if something can fit, they discuss it with you, versus this Munchausenism we got going on. Oh my God, that's my the symptoms are the same for just about anything.
Right.
And what, you're going to take 100 pills? No, we're making people paranoid.
Yeah, and then they just blah, 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 all the side effects that could happen, and they're terrible. And I'm just like, oh Lord, there is so many ways to holistically deal with a lot of the things that, and labels. Don't even get me started on labels. I think labels are detrimental. I think maybe that's what saved me. I didn't go to therapy as a child to tell me you are, you have PTSD, you are depressed, you're manic, you're this, you're chemically imbalanced. I didn't have all that being put inside my head telling me I'm doomed. So honestly, I feel like that saved me.
Yeah, convincing you of something that may or may not necessarily be true because someone in the profession is getting a kickback.
Even if it is true, it's not your identity, and you can change it. That's not what they kind of lead you to believe. They kind of like, you have to keep coming to see me for years and years. And I don't know. I'm just glad I didn't get caught up in that. I started to get my hands when I just stopped going to work. I stopped going to work. I couldn't leave the house. I was a complete mess. I couldn't get out of bed. I was terrified, thinking I was going to go crazy. It was the scariest time of my life. And I just started to get my hands. I decided I didn't want to die. I didn't want to end my life. So I wanted to go and learn. So I just got my hands on every self-help book on mindset transformation. And I'll tell you, that started, the reason I had the idea is my grandmother turned me on to Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking, when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So I kind of had at least some of that knowledge of how your mind could actually, you can actually have the same background as someone, but perceive it completely different. Perception is huge. And so I started to learn about mindset and how to change my mindset and the tools. And it just kept growing over 25 years of studying it. Then, everyone was telling me for years, write a book, write a book, write a book. And then finally I sat down and wrote a book. And then I was like, you know what? I want to help others and I have helped individuals who have been through therapy for 2 or 3 years and said, it's just not working,
Yeah.
My process is.
I say all the time too, that there's a difference in like the mindset thing is absolutely right. There are substances that indeed can cause a physical withdrawal, a physical addiction, but as long as you don't have the addictive personality type disorder
There's
with
actually
it,
a
you
gene.
can come over.
Mm-hmm. There's actually a gene that they can tell you when you're born. If you do start drinking and drinking a lot, you're most likely to become an alcoholic. If you don't have that gene, you may or may not, like you don't have to become an alcoholic. But there are some people who actually have the gene that can't fight that, and they really need some extensive help. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very indeed. As far as modern science has become in the last 100 years, things we say today, though, may be snake oil 100 years from now.
Right.
As much as we think we know, there's a whole lot we don't know.
Oh,
and a couple
absolutely.
things. One quick one for those looking at behind the scenes video, they will see a pumpkin over your right shoulder.
Yes.
And by the time this airs, they're going to be wondering, why does she have a pumpkin out? Well, we're recording around Halloween of 2024.
Yes. So, but my grandchildren are coming over tomorrow, and I've got the house decked out with some Halloween stuff for them. Yes.
So that explains that. And Alice Cooper.
I just like pumpkins.
Yeah. You got a pumpkin spice latte there with you?
Right, yes.
But since I'm in the Detroit area, and I spoke with someone else on another show about Vincent, aka Alice Cooper. His talk about Christianity and then kind of falling away, but then his faith definitely being a help in him getting over his alcoholism. And now that we're kind of on music, the next logical segue is Elton John, the song Philadelphia Freedom, which was really about Billie Jean King and tennis somehow. I don't know how, but in it he says,
it's funny.
In it he says, "Sweet freedom whispered in my ear."
That's not Philadelphia Freedom. That's saved my life tonight.
Oh, yes, of course. Duh. Yeah. Wrong song. But yes, it did.
I actually sent him a copy of the book. I don't know if he got it. I don't know anything about it, but I sent him one and Bernie Taupin one, because that song, if we were to listen to it, I can take you through it lyric by lyric, and it describes the night my mother died. You almost had me altar bound, not marriage, but killed, like in a coffin, and like the whole song. And that song kind of got me through that time in my life, because it was like, sweet freedom, you're whispered in my ear, you're a butterfly, and butterflies are free to fly. And I didn't know that was going to be a title of a book or anything like that. But one night after I wrote the book, I couldn't come up with a title, and I was falling asleep, and it just hit me in bed. Like, I was like, oh my God, that's the name of the book, So,
yeah. And I love that, because I've spoken to it. I'm a suicide attempt survivor myself. And I speak to it all the time. And in my Terror Strikes book, there's a suicide prevention sub-thread in there. You never know what tomorrow will bring to you. Carpe diem, right? You may not see the value, the meaning, the purpose in your life at any given moment, but there is one.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I just feel that my purpose now, and I'm just transitioning into this, this role is to be there for people who've been through trauma and abuse, and maybe not even through trauma and abuse. There's someone who came to me and said, I just have negative thoughts all the time. I'm always down on myself. I don't love myself. But I almost didn't call you or get on the call with you, because I thought, well, here's someone who went through so much trauma. I feel like why am I talking? She's going to feel like, why are you complaining to me? You haven't been through trauma, but that's not me. Trauma is trauma, and trying to get past negative beliefs or thoughts, a belief is just a thought that you thought for a very long time, right?
Yeah,
so
that's that mindset transformation, which is in Sweet Freedom Whispered in My Ear, the book.
Yeah, the book is my story, and at the end of each chapter, I write about what tools I used to, and what I learned about going through that particular event in my life. So the book is to show what I've been through and the level of trauma, and that in spite of all that, I'm a happy, successful person who is very close to my children, my grandchildren. I built a life that is worth living. I love my life. And if I can do it, anyone can, so
well, we can sense I was going to joke, we could say, right, happy, you seem crabby to me, right?
Yeah,
we can sense the happy.
Right.
Right, I like Sesame Street, Oscar, right?
Right, yes, right. No, yeah,
we gotta keep a sense of humor.
Absolutely. That's super important, and I'm glad that I have been able to do that.
Right, and certainly wasn't planning to go there, but Robin Williams comes to mind. Indeed, I had Bullseye the Clown on my show talking about bullying, Bullseye, bullying, right? But indeed, humor can make a big difference for both the person in depression and everyone else. I do that. It's behind my humor, my lame puns, my bad humor, my wordplay, because if I can even get a fake grin out of somebody, I know I've helped make somebody's day, hopefully just a skosh better, and that makes me feel better. That gives my life value, meaning, purpose, helping others through the day. And like the Pantene commercial, if you remember, tell two people, sooner or later you've got a movement, right? Spreading joy. We got a movement, hopefully.
Absolutely, yes.
Hopefully not that kind of a movement, but for those on the audio, I grabbed my stomach. lame potty humor, bathroom humor joke. So, can never resist. At any rate, back to the serious stuff now. Go on, please.
So it has become, very important to me and very near to my heart to work with people and to, like you said, see them smile. One of the individuals I work with called me and they were just in tears, and by it's a 3-month course. So I am on the phone with them every week or in a Zoom call with them every week throughout the 3 months. And to see them start smiling and having joy, it's just pretty amazing.
I will link back in the show notes to the Bullseye the Clown episode, because indeed he gave a story one time when they were on a mission somewhere, different language. I think might have been Russia. But that language barrier. So, he'd get out a rubber chicken and get a smile from somebody on the street that he would otherwise not be able to communicate anything with, but he knows he's helped.
That's kind of with deaf people. There's a lot of communication with, they're very animated. They have a lot of body movement along with the signs, and they usually get their point across without someone even knowing sign language. So
with me, it's the Italian in me with the hand movements.
I use my hands too, but because I have signed my whole life, right?
Well, that makes perfect sense. Well, I'm glad I brought up Bullseye, because again, you never know where something will lead until you just kind of flow into it.
Right. That's very true.
So let's pivot a bit to Red Leaf Alternate Healing LLC.
Alternative healing, yes. Yes, Red Leaf Alternative Healing. I named it that. It goes back to my grandson and my granddaughter and I walking one fall a couple years back, and there was this beautiful red tree, and my grandson was just like, look at that beautiful red tree. And my granddaughter, she was really little then, and she was looking at it, and I picked up a red leaf off the ground and showed it. Can I keep this? And it just kind of was like, oh, I'm going to name my business Red Leaf, because the tree of life and the roots that are grounded. And I'm also a Reiki master, so trees are my thing. And I was like, yeah, Red Leaf, I'm going to go with that. So
it's amazing how sometimes something can just flow like that. It's just like divine intervention, interceding. It's the skies open, the clouds part, and here's the idea, run with it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So you do both consulting and you have sales of some things? Besides your book?
I don't sell, besides my book, I don't really sell products.
Okay.
I am a Reiki master, and sometimes people want energy work done as well, so I can add that in with that. But it's really a 12-week course, and it's weekly lessons with daily activities, and then we speak once a week as well via Zoom. So, so I don't just give the course to somebody and say, okay, figure it out. I want to walk them through it. I want to be there. And even our talks every week isn't really, a lot of times they're not even about the course. We may touch on the course, but it's more about a more customized, what they're struggling with, what evidence of things changing for the better they see, and they'll ask for advice on different things. So, the coaching calls aren't necessarily only geared towards the coaching, the course itself.
Yeah. Are you ready, folks? I know some of you probably anticipated this joke coming after she started talking, right? As you talk about being happy, I don't get why being mean to people for 12 weeks helps since you're being coarse with them.
Hey, well, you know what? Taking ownership is a big part of healing, right? So when you got to tell someone it's not anyone else's fault but your own, it is a little coarse, right? But it's
amen.
True.
Amen.
And until somebody realizes that, hey, I'm the one who has to change. I'm the one who has to take responsibility for the situation I'm in. Of course, unless you're a child, taking ownership is huge.
Yeah, I have on numerous occasions during this show with guests. We've already mentioned Alice Cooper and Elton John. I'm going to drop Michael Jackson and Rick Springfield now, right?
Right.
Michael Jackson, man in the mirror. Right. I'm asking him to change his ways, right? Rick Springfield, prayer. I send a prayer to heaven to be a better man than the man I see. Right. Indeed, what are we doing about ourselves?
Right. Yes, taking accountability, taking ownership for where we are in our lives. It's not my mother's fault that this happened. It's not, I'm not using any crutches. It's like, if something's going wrong in my life, it's because of a choice I made, and I can unmake that choice or change things around that choice to make things better. And we have to take accountability for that.
Amen. Absolutely. Not to say, because you already mentioned DNA, particular gene, but if you know that, you know what your, to use that word again, course of action needs to be to make sure you don't put yourself into that situation.
Exactly.
Taking ownership. And again, like you said, right, not blaming mama for the alcohol problem, right? You knew that was the case with her, and that you might be susceptible, but yet you drove yourself down that road.
I did. I absolutely did. And that's the thing is something was right on my mind when you said what
that happens to me all the time.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and when you talk about music, music has been a lifesaver for me because
very healing.
Yes. And I didn't feel so alone because I felt like when I was going through all the abuse and everything, I wasn't talking to anybody about it. You certainly don't go to school and talk about it. And when I would hear songs, I'm like, oh, they're hurting. They feel bad. I'm not the only person that feels bad, you know? And Alice Cooper, I've seen him live. And I actually, you know, he played with Frank Zappa back in the day, and I actually went to Zappinelli in.
You're not old enough for that.
Yeah. So I went to Frank Zappa Festival in Germany too in 2009, but I only found out about Alice Cooper being a Christian this year. I really did not know that, and I was like, "Wow, that's really cool."
Yeah, he has a lot of Christian fans, including me. I've been one. You know, being in the Detroit area, he grew up in the area too, so obviously for that reason. But yeah, he's got a big Christian fan base because, and he said it on the video, and I'll link to the video in the show notes where he talks about it. His whole show, even while he was a drunkard and before he got straight and cleaned up and came back to Christ, God was working through him. His whole show is good over evil. He gets it in the end. The beheading.
Yes.
And then also music, right? Music can be wonderful and soothing, unless if maybe you're listening to Megadeth all day.
Right.
Just a joke. I like Megadeth or Disturbed, or because heavy metal is kind of my preferred genre. So I say that, I joke, obviously anything in moderation. I mean, even some of their music has some soother tracks and about people dealing with issues.
Right. I agree. There's a lot of genres out there. I mean, even rap at some point. Like you guys have Eminem, you know?
Yeah. I was going to say I was never a fan. That would be an untruth. I liked him when he first came out. I'm not a fan of his now, but indeed, you know, him and Kid Rock from the area.
Well, he just
Ted
went
Nugent
through
also,
and he wrote a whole album on it. I am a fan of Eminem. I think he's a lyrical genius. I think he's
clever. He's clever.
Oh, he's clever. He's clever. Yeah, he really is. And I think you know, related with him a lot with his dysfunctional relationship with his mom. So a lot of the songs I would listen to, some of them would make me cry. Like I just could relate so much, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, obviously he has some really off the wall stuff with Slim Shady and stuff like that, you know, but,
yeah, I like all that earlier stuff. Yeah, I like his earlier stuff, not so much now after Encore. It's like, I'm done with you.
I'm not done with Eminem. I still like Eminem very much. But
I'm onto other rappers like Topher and Bryson Gray and Tom McDonald. And I've had Gista on my show.
Oh, wow.
I have DPB going to be on my show about bringing positivity back into the rap genre as opposed to all the gangster kill, murder, loot, rob, steal, you know, sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. There's a lot of positive things that can be said in every genre in music, and it's a powerful way to get a message out for sure.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. It is a myth that terrorism stopped during COVID. Unfortunately, mainstream media opted to prioritize pandemic hysteria over promoting all news. Terrorism continues. Simply hoping that it doesn't affect you is not a strategy. The new book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you, featured on The Author Show, is now available in paperback from bookstores, online, or as an ebook exclusively through Amazon Kindle. Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you by Joseph M. Leonard. Order today.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because the music enhances the lyrics, and even an instrumental, if done well, done right, can move you. Like
right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like Rush.
Oh man, Rush.
The rock group, not the talk show guy.
No, I know. Yeah.
Right?
YYZ. Rush is one of my favorite bands. So
are they? Yeah. I like. Well, of course, Detroit too. So
yeah.
Toronto.
Apparently, I like a lot of Detroit artists. So.
Yeah, Rush did YYZ, which is the code for the Toronto International Airport. And that indeed, that's, it's why it's got a happy movie kind of, a boop, 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 bop around, feel good kind of thing to it.
Right.
So I got to have you back just to talk music sometime.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I agree. I can talk music. Sure. Well, hopefully Elton John gets my book, and I wrote him a letter thanking him for the song, and Bernie Taupin as well. Yeah.
That would be great if
I actually sent Steven Tyler one too, because I'd love to do some work with his charity event that he founded, or the charity he founded, Janie's Fund.
Mm-hmm.
For girls who have been abused. And I'd love to either speak there or donate my books or something. So I actually wrote the foundation and Steven Tyler a letter and sent the book as well. So we'll see.
I have donated some of my books to one of the many overseas, like USO type things, to sending packages overseas to troops. But the Aerosmith Janie's Got a Gun, he then named it after. I reached out to Steven Tyler too, because when I was courting my then before fiance, Armageddon was out, and Diane Warren, I reached out to her too. I don't want to miss a thing. Well, I reworked the second chorus and an alternate verse for my then girlfriend, who then became my wife. So I reached out to them. Of course, never heard anything.
Yeah, he's kind of a busy person, I guess.
Yeah, they all are. Yeah.
I do got a couple things autographed by him that, when he was coming out of the show and stuff, but, I got that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's try to drag it on back.
Let's get back on here.
From having leapt off the tracks that I caused, this now train wreck to be. Let's bring it back and start to wrap it up. So I guess the best way to do that is to go back to the book Sweet Freedom Whispered in My Ear. When did it come out?
It came out in October of 2023. So not that long ago. And I'm actually going to a book fair in Miami at the end of November, which I didn't know was going on, but I am going to meet Moon Zappa. Let's not get back on the music thing, but I am going to meet Moon Zappa, and I would like to, exchange books and get, signed books and talk to her a little bit, because we have a lot of similar things in our books that I'd like to talk to her about. But yeah, the book, I'm doing a reading on the book. I do book signings, and I'm keeping the momentum going on the book. But there are 2 more books I'd like to write once I'm more established and have my business going on a smooth level and everything's going right. I do want to take some time to write 2 more books. I want to write about parenting after abuse and trauma, and I also want to write about dating after abuse and trauma.
Oh, those would be very, very good follow-ups. And let me know when you do so I can have you back on it. I have Michelle Jewsbury also on by the time this airs. The show already recorded with her will have aired too. And I've had Trent Brock on, who has a chapter in one of her books. She's got a collection of people who went through trauma. Wow. That comes out. I have the Breaking the Silence, Voices of Survivors to peddle her book and yours in the same thing. I would recommend people buy yours and hers. Their second book is coming out soon. To start their journey, if they haven't already, or help their journey, hopefully to recovery. Yes?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. And there's happiness. Everyone deserves happiness. Everyone deserves happiness. Everyone deserves love, and it can be achieved, but it does start from within, because if you are always searching outside of yourself for validation or for love, you're not going to find it. It has to start from within.
Yeah, right. Self-love, right? Since we were on music the whole time, another old song came to what the world needs now is love, sweet love, right? But no, you've got to be able to at least accept yourself. You don't have to love everything about you, but you've got to, Michael Jackson style, look in the mirror and be honest with yourself in order
and the things
for
you
things
don't
to
like,
be better.
You can change, I mean, you can change the things you don't like, and you can love yourself, and you can love your flaws as well. It's okay.
It's all part of being human.
Right. And we are children of God. So if God made us, then we have to kind of respect that. You know, if we're hating ourselves, we're hating something God made, right? So if we're calling ourselves Christians, you know, that's kind of counterintuitive, right? So you got to love yourself.
I think that's the perfect place to end it. And the last obvious question is there a website? Where do people reach out to you?
Well, if you can remember my name, Shirley, you jest, and the buck stops here. It's ShirleyBuck.com. All right, ShirleyBuck.com.
Yeah, so. I've got you questioning it now. Huh?
Yeah, you got me questioning my own name. Thank you.
Yeah. Indeed, Shirley, you jest.
The author name is S.A. Buck, you know, on the book, but my website is ShirleyBuck.com.
That's a good distinction. I will make a note of that. People behind the scenes can always see me waving around a note or what is he doing over there? I'm writing down notes.
Right.
So I know what to put in the show notes.
Right, exactly.
when the episode does finally get ready to come out. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. This was like probably the most fun I've had on a podcast. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that was good. I apologize for probably too many jokes.
Oh, no, it's fine. I did not feel that way at all.
Yeah, we're dealing with serious subject matter, but even in my terrorism book, there's a comic relief chapter to make that point. No matter how serious things get around us, got to keep a sense of humor or we'll be curled in the corner in the fetal position, sucking on our thumb, crying all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Take care. God bless Shirley Buck.
Thank you. God bless you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. all substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM is your conservative flamethrower. Weekdays, Steve Gruber starts things off at 6 a.m. Gruber gives his perspective on the issues of the day. At 9 a.m., Glenn Beck blazes the airwaves with his nationally syndicated program. From noon to 3, it's Dennis Prager. At 3 o'clock, it's Wham's own Thayrone X. On the Edge, Thayrone tells it exactly as he sees it. At 6, it's The Dana Show, your conservative alternative. At 8, don't miss Joe Pags. Weekends are filled with conservative talk as well. Fingers Malloy, Thomas LeDuc, The Abolitionists Roundtable, A Moment of Clarity with Pastor Rick, Your American Heritage with Ed Bondarenka, Dave Janda's Operation Freedom, and Dick Kupke's Trigger Talk. You can even get links to Wham podcasts from Dave, Dick, and of course Thayrone, all from their pages on our website, whamradio.com. Keep it locked on Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM in southeastern Michigan, and whamradio.com anywhere in the world.